Here we are, we're in segment 2 of Taming Sibling Rivalry. And we're back in this segment. I'm going to talk about the main ideas that we're going to be using to help you untangle the sibling snarls that you see every day in your family. And so it's going to be a fairly dense little segment here, but I'm hoping I can string the information together in a useful way for you, because these same ideas that I'm going to talk about here we will be using throughout the rest of the class. So the reason that we're going to highlight how to build a sense of connection with each of your children and how to repair that sense of connection after it's been built is because without a sense of connection, without a sense of security in your love, your child can't like anybody. They can't build a good relationship with anybody. Without that good sense of connection, they don't feel good about themselves and they don't feel good about the people around them. Children are built, they're actually built, physically, neurologically built, to be in very close connection with their parents or with some caring adult who really watches out for them, who really treasures them, who really delights in them. You know, children are built to feed on and grow on and thrive on adult delight in them. And so as long as we're delighting in them and they can tell that we are somewhere around keeping an eye out for them and that we are favorably disposed towards them, that we're feeling generous in their direction, that if they called us needing help, we'd go, oh, what's the matter? You know, we'd be interested, we'd be there, we would respond right away. As soon as they have the sense that that is what's true about our attitude and our relationship with them, they can relax. And when children can relax in that sense of connection, that sense of being valued, there's lots of ways to say it. It's being loved, it's being cherished, it's being paid attention to, it's having, you know, your goodwill. And that doesn't mean you have to be holding your child's hand every moment of every day. It doesn't mean you have to wear your child on your body all the time, although sometimes that's good. It just means that your mind needs to be attuned to what's going on with your child. Or if not your mind, then the mind of someone else who is trustworthy and someone else who likes them. Someone who wants to, you know, provide for them, who wants to smooth their way in the world. So you're wanting to put a big-hearted person in with your child when your big heart can't be there, in order to provide that really basic sense that someone is watching out for me. Children's minds actually know, their system is geared to understand that they are very, very vulnerable. That without your guidance, without the guidance of some thinking, aware, caring adult around them, they're lost. They don't know how things work. They don't know where the dangers are. They don't get the reassurance that everything is okay, so then their mind doesn't work very well, and they make poor decisions. They're very, very vulnerable. Their system knows it, which is why they're so very dependent on us, their parents, for the many, many years of their early lives. So we need to foster your child's sense of connection, because without that basic sense, they can't feel right in the world. And when they don't feel right in the world, there's no way that they can feel right about siblings who also take your attention. So we're really looking to give you tools to create that sense of connection. So connection is vital. Your child's neurological development actually depends on feeling connected to you, which means that there are going to be times when you're offering connection, when you're offering eye contact and you're there and you're paying attention, and your child still doesn't get it. You know, they're upset and they won't look at you, or they turn around and walk into the room and slam the door. It's like they're not open to connection at that moment. And that's a hurtful moment. It's like sometimes children do feel so bad that they shut themselves off. They actively reject attempts to connect. And which doesn't mean you should stop attempting to connect. It doesn't mean you stop the connective activity. It just means that there's an obvious barrier there to receiving the connection that you're offering. And that means your child is in trouble. That means they really need your help, no matter how stinky their behavior is at that moment. And believe me, I do know how stinky children's behavior can get, and so do you. So your child needs that sense of connection in order to have any chance of having a really good time with their siblings. So we're going to concentrate here for now. We're going to say that in order for your child to function well, a sense of connection comes first. And what sense of connection does is it allows the social emotional center of your child's brain, the limbic system, to get what it needs, to get the information that all is well, to get the information that they are protected, to get the information that they are loved, to get the information that someone will respond to them thoughtfully anytime they need it, even if they're all the way across the way over there in the sandbox and you're, trying to put the baby to sleep in the stroller over here. If they can look and see you there, they can renew that sense of connection. They don't need you to see everything they're doing. They don't need you to be right there necessarily. Some children do, but if the sense of connection is strong enough, they can function pretty independently for a while, just looking every now and then to make sure that you're thinking about them. So the sense of connection allows a child to relax with the gut feeling that all is well. The limbic system sends signals to the rest of the brain saying, all is safe, we're protected, if a danger comes, there's someone who's going to help me out. So I don't need to be afraid, I don't need to tighten up, I don't need to be defensive. I can relax, I can play. When your child's limbic system, which is, it's like a radar actually, the limbic system is sending out signals every single second, looking for that vital sense of connection, so that the child's system wants to know that everything's okay, and it checks every single second if everything's okay. So if you all of a sudden get scared, your child can cry instantaneously because you got scared and their system said, woo, there's a danger here. And you might have gotten scared by something that wasn't really scary, you just didn't know what it was, but your child is going to think that something drastic happened and may burst into tears right away just because you got startled. So your child is that sensitive to the communication that you're giving non-verbally, mostly non-verbally, about whether everything is okay or not. When his limbic system goes, yep, looks like we're all okay, daddy is whistling, daddy is having a good time, daddy's got a spring in his step, then the time at the park can be great, and there can be cooperation between siblings because daddy is giving off nonverbal signals that the limbic system receives that it's a good day, he's in a good mood, he's got plenty of attention to share for everyone. When the limbic system is satisfied and has a good tractor beam in on the mothership or the fathership, and that sense of connection is, nice and strong, and it's, kind of the beams are going back and forth well, then the cortical structures, the learning part of the brain, the part of the brain that really processes information, stores away short-term memory, gathers information and turns it into judgment in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that allows a child to have a nice long attention span if they want it and if they need it. The part of the brain that controls their impulses, so that if you say, no, please don't lick your ice cream yet, I want to get us over here before you start eating it because we have some steps to go over, and you might drop it if you do two things at once. Your child, if they're thinking and feeling connected with you, prefrontal cortex, which controls their impulses, is going, I can wait 10 seconds to lick my ice cream cone. They can follow direction, they've listened to you, they're invested in, doing things that go well with you, and they can wait to lick their ice cream cone until they get over the steps. So the prefrontal cortex, where their judgment sits and their impulse control sits, this is the thing you want working in order for siblings to get along. This is the part of the brain that keeps things from being grabbed, that keeps children from wanting to be first every single time in every single place, and make sure that their little brother or sister is last or second, and making sure that they get the first dibs on everything. This is the part of the brain that impulsively hugs too tight until somebody's being squeezed, and crying. This is the part of the brain that, lashes out and pulls hair on a moment's notice. And so you really want this part of the brain working well, and it can only work well when the limbic system has got that sense of connection. So the minute that sense of connection goes, haywire is what happens inside your child's mind, and that's when you get into a snarl. So our interest is in helping children stay connected and in repairing the connection when it frays. When we can see that our children are not doing well, what you can know about that is if your child is behaving aggressively or is withdrawn or is putting up a huge fuss and cannot listen to anything you say, your child can't follow your wishes at all, your child is acting impulsively, your child is wrecking stuff, your child looks at their little sister and then goes and steps on her dolly. When those kinds of things happen, what you know is that your child can't think. And when your child can't think, they don't feel connected. And when your child doesn't feel connected, they can't think. So a few examples of this. It's like the sense of connection breaks often when you have to take a break from paying attention. So when you answer the phone, it will probably often happen in your house that you're talking on the phone for 30 seconds and all hell breaks loose out there on the living room floor where it was all going well before you answered the phone. Because you are paying attention to somebody else, your children's limbic systems go, whoa, nobody's paying attention, what is daddy doing? And all of a sudden they can't think. And they have no impulse control. They don't feel good about anybody else. And behaviors pop out that are really not what we're hoping for, not what they're hoping for either. They don't know why they're doing this stuff, but inside things have gone awry. They've lost the sense of connection that allows their brain to function well. It's kind of like getting a broken bone. It's like you've got a break in your leg. You can't walk. You cannot walk normally. You could. You have the potential to walk again, but right now you've got a broken leg and you can't walk. And when a child doesn't have a sense of connection, they can't think. And the behavior that pops out of them will not work. They can't attune themselves to anybody. They don't feel like anybody loves them, and they don't feel like they love anybody. They lose that sense of connection. They lose their investment in you and in their sibling. So this is why things get snarled. It's because your child loses that sense of connection. Some children lose a sense of connection really, really easily, and other children are much more stable. It's like it takes something harsh before they lose a sense of connection. And I'm not going to go into why some children are so much more able to hang on to a sense that they are supported and secure with you than other children, but I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next segment. So when a child's sense of connection breaks, what happens is their thinking shuts down, and their mind still needs to process everything that's going on. It's like just because they can't think logically or rationally and they can't behave well doesn't mean that there's not oodles of information flowing in at every second that their brain needs to process. But while they can't think, the things that happen make no sense to them. Their brain cannot make sense of the occurrences that happen while they're in a state, while their limbic system is shut off from that sense of connection. So what happens is they feel bad. Anytime a child loses a sense of connection, it hurts. And it hurts in any one of a million ways. They might feel ashamed, they might feel mad, they might feel frustrated, they might feel abandoned, they might feel forlorn, they might feel sad, they might feel murderous, they might feel like hurting somebody. The feeling that goes in, it's really up to them. It's not, you have no control over what feeling goes in, and you don't really necessarily know what it is. Their face will show it. You'll get a sense of what the feeling is from their nonverbal communication. Usually when children are feeling bad, they don't say what it is, and you don't need to make them say what the feeling is. There's really not a whole lot of use to naming the feeling or teaching your child to name the feeling. In some ways, it actually hinders your ability to help a child, to ask them to name the feeling. So they're feeling bad, and there's this big wad of information that's pouring in that they cannot make sense of. And that information gets all wrapped up with the bad feeling that they're experiencing, and it creates a little mess in their mind, a little mess in their memory. If they're having a bad experience in the park in the sandbox, then, and it makes a kind of an experiential and an emotional mess in their mind, a wad of feelings and emotions. The next day they come back to the sandbox and they look at that corner of the sandbox where it all happened, and they may have those feelings come back up again. They may avoid that corner of the sandbox. They may say, I don't want to go to the park, and have a big cry, because as they imagine going back to that place where that bad feeling happened, their mind is trying to access, what information do I have about the park? Gee, what do I remember? Oh, I remember this really bad experience. And the feeling comes up and floods their mind again. So the mind can be flooded by feelings that aren't coming from anything happening now. The mind can be flooded by feelings that come from something that happened yesterday, 6 months ago, or when the child was born. It's like our children's memories are perfectly recording everything that goes on. Most of this recording goes into an unconscious part of the memory, but that doesn't mean it isn't there. And so feelings that get stuck in the emotional memory can be brought up by, tiny little incidents during the day that stop a child from being able to think, because the feeling now floods the thinking part of the brain and overwhelms the child's judgment and the child's ability to use their prefrontal cortex to think about things. So a little example, and actually one more step here. I know this is a long segment, but here we go. There is a self-repair mechanism for these wads of feelings and information that gets stuck in children's emotional memories. And it's one that human beings have not really understood very well in very many corners of the world for centuries. So this is going to be news to you and news to your friends, and it's going to look odd, but it's a very effective piece of information. When you come around to a child who isn't thinking well, who isn't functioning well, whose behavior has gone way off track, and they're showing, that they cannot think and cannot relate well to others, in particular their sibling, when you come in and offer to connect, you bring warm eye contact, you bring gentle touch, you often you bring a limit so they can't continue to do the nutty thing that is not working well. So you just bring the limit. You don't tell them, stop that. You get it to stop. You bring your hand in so they can't continue to bang on their brother's head. And you just go, what's happening? And you say very little. The child can feel your attempt to connect. The mind can feel, what I need is right here. And what comes up is all of those feelings that are causing trouble inside. And a child begins to heal that hurt that's stuck in there. And the way they heal is by crying very, very hard, very passionately, by having a tantrum. If it's fear, if it's something scared them, then they're going to scream and writhe and wriggle and arch their backs and shut their eyes tight and wail and sweat. Warm sweat, a lot of hot sweat, or a lot of cold and clammy sweat. If they really got terrified, then they'll get cold and clammy while they're crying and carrying on. There won't be a lot of crying, but they'll be making a whole lot of noise, and they'll be moving all over the place. And you need to, kind of try to keep them safe. As these feelings are pouring out, your connection is pouring in. And this is the healing action. This is the power that you have that you didn't know you had, that can change things forever in your family. As your child pours feelings out because you made it safe enough for the child to notice how they feel and let it go, your connection is pouring in. And all of the feelings that go with that bad experience, whether it was 2 seconds ago or 2 years ago, are making their exit, and what's going in the place of that hurt, that emotional debris or emotional scar, is connection and love and caring and safety from you. So you don't need to say a lot to be a powerful healer of your child's mind. What you need to do is be confident and anchor them emotionally, which means saying things like, I know it's hard. Yeah, I'm right here. I know. You want it really badly. But he's got it. Yeah, you'll get a turn. I'm sure you will. And lots of listening. Listening heals the hurt. If you are there to do the listening, if you are there to keep your child safe. So your child can heal hurt that causes trouble day in and day out if you move in and offer connection when your child has gone haywire. It's really very simple, and it's somewhat hard to do because no one in our families growing up knew to do this. When we went haywire and our behavior showed difficulty, we were either punished or we were told to go to our rooms, or we were blamed or we were shamed, we were told we were bad, we were slapped, we were attacked in some way, or we were neglected. We just, our parents just walked away and went, oh, whatever, I can't believe this is happening again, and left us to do more harm with our siblings, brothers and sisters. None of those are the reactions that we tend to impulsively have when we can't think. When we can't think, we reflect what our parents did to us. But listening and anchoring our child while they go through the emotional healing process is really where we want to be going. That's the direction out of the snarl. That untangles the difficulties that keep popping up day after day. So there you have it. The next segment will be shorter.